Uh, my name is Henrique Bossi. I am the third author of this work. I'm presenting the name of my colleagues from Brazil and also my supervisor in UK, Dr. James Walker. This is the reliability of cycling performance during field-based uphill time trials. And this is a collaborative work between our Brazilian university, Universidade de Fora, and University of Kent. So as a background, why is it important to measure time trial performance reliability? Well, in the practice, the field practice, most athletes rely on a time trial to control the improvements or decrements in performance. So it's important to know whether a change in performance is really due to the training interventions or due to some variability in performance, normal variability, or maybe error of measures. Again, in a different perspective, scientific studies commonly use time trial performances to assess the effect of experimental interventions, either nutritional interventions or maybe training interventions per se. So particularly in this case, these authors use it for 40-kilometer time trials, and it's important to know whether any difference in performance is really due to the intervention per se or due to some normal biological or technical variability in the equipment. Basically, there are two types of time trials we can assess performance and also performance reliability. First, we have a laboratory-based time trial. In this model, very common scientific studies, the control environment allows for a more precise measure that can impact on performance. However, we lack here the ecological validity necessary for most athletes to perform at their best. Conversely, in field time trials, we have less control of the factors impacting on performance, but more ecological validity. So in this case, most athletes are able to perform at their best. And indeed, some studies have investigated the reliability of performance in field-based time trials. However, just one investigated the reliability of performance in an uphill course. And as you can see, the course was very short, just 1.4 kilometers. And this is not really typical for most climbs you can find in hilly courses, especially here in Europe, in the France group during the tour, etc. So we need to evaluate what is the reliability of performance in longer duration efforts, such as, in this case here, 20-minute time trial. Okay, and there is one more variable that is important when assessing the performance in field time trials. This variability is pacing strategy. And it's important to remember that when we have a field-based trial, the course is not really 100% the same gradient. So this variability, together with the variability in wind direction and wind speed, can impact on the distribution of power. Consequently, it might affect performance. So it's important to know, together with the reliability of performance, also the reliability of pace strategy after multiple trials. Therefore, the study purpose was to assess the reliability of mean power output and pace strategy during field-based uphill time trials and the influence of different courses and performance levels on the reliability measures. To do so, we recruited 18 trained cyclists. You can see here their mean values in terms of age, weight, body mass, and height. At first, they did a great exercise test, starting at 100 watts and increasing in 25 watts per minute. The peak power output was measured as the highest 1 minute power output, but not measured by the ergometer per se, but by the power tap wheel attached to the bike of each cyclist. So in this case, we could get a more precise measure of their true peak power output. These cyclists performed 4 field-based 20-minute uphill time trials with 7 days apart between each trial, and also we separated the cyclists in the top 9 and bottom 9 performance, based on the mean performance of each athlete. Those cyclists, they performed their time trials in different courses, as you can see here. However, each cyclist performed all their time trials in the same course. We instructed them to avoid caffeine, alcohol, and strenuous exercise during the last 24 hours before each time trial. And also, we asked them to perform, to fill a full diary in the first day of data collection and repeat the same food standard consumption during the following sessions in order to control for the effects of diet on performance. Then all the data were long transformed to describe the mean power output reliability. I mean here the performance of the whole trials. And data was described as interclass correlation coefficient, typical error, and coefficient of variation according to this table provided by Hopkins. Within participant, difference in mean power output was measured by one-way repeated measures ANOVA. And for pacing strategy, we used this measure pacing index, where the time segment mean power output was divided by the total time trial mean power output and multiplied by 100, meaning that the pacing strategy was actually a percentage of the mean power output during the whole time trial. And to assess the interaction between pacing strategy, time trial order, performance level, and course chosen, we used a combination of two-way and three-way ANOVAs, and statistical significance was set at p equal or less than 0.05. So here you can see the results of the great exercise test. The peak power output was 350 watts or 4.92 watts per kilogram. That classifies the subjects as trained cyclists performance level 3 according to the guidelines of the code 2013. Here in this graph you can see that the mean power output of each time trial was roughly the same in each condition, and there was no learning effect, meaning that this performance is quite reliable, and also there is no bias between each consecutive time trial. Here, a more proper measure of reliability. We found that even when considering all participants or separated them by their performance levels and by the course utilized, still the reliability measures were very high. The range between the lowest and the highest was very narrow. So therefore we can conclude that the performance in these 20-minute time trials in the field are very reliable and reproducible. Here we have an interesting picture of our results. In these lines you can see the pacing strategy adopted by the cyclists. So generally, they started in a very high intensity, around 130 of their mean power output, and they finished off with a very low intensity compared with the previous start, not presenting the typical end spurt that we can find in most studies and most time trials. These graphs represent the variability in pace strategy, the reliability of pace strategy, and we found that the first time segments and the last ones, the variability of pace strategy from one time trial to another is higher than in the middle of the section. And our results were very similar in terms of the reliability of pace strategy to another study that did the same, but this time in the laboratory setting. So it seems that studies in the lab and in the field in terms of pace strategy present similar results in terms of variability. However, the pace strategy was quite different in our study, and we might suggest or maybe hypothesize that this is due to the characteristics of the field time trial, especially when we perform them in an uphill course. This might be true because we also found this kind of positive pace strategy in another study, a previous study, and therefore it's up to the researchers to solve this question: why some cyclists adopt this positive pace strategy even when they perform that time trial repeatedly without presenting any kind of adaptation or learning effect. Here in this table you can see the main interactions regarding pace strategy, and obviously there was a time segment effect. This is the actual positive pace strategy, as you can see in this comparison. So the first time segment was statistically different from the second time segment. And we also found the effect of the course. It was statistically significant, indicating that different courses might change the pace strategy slightly. However, we did not find an effect of the time trial order in pace strategy. As you have seen here, the pace strategy is quite similar in each occasion, and we did not find any effect of the performance level, remembering the top 9 and the bottom 9 performance. So in summary, we found a high reliability of performance and no learning effects during 20-minute uphill time trials, both overall and after splitting cyclists in groups. So this is a good thing, because it seems that this kind of performance can be really utilized either in scientific studies to control for the effects of experimental interventions, or in practice to see whether or not your athletes are improving. And also, positive pace strategies were found in all time trials with higher variability in the first and the last segments, but interestingly, without any learning effect. So it seems that if you don't instruct your cyclists to change their pace strategy, they will still be doing the same thing after many time trials, and this might suggest that this kind of time trial is robust enough, because pace strategy can't interfere with the performance, the final performance. It's always the same. And finally, cyclist performance levels does not seem to influence pace strategy, but course selection does. It's important to note that this is still work in progress. It's not adequate to do a reliability study with only 18 subjects, 18 participants. So we are still recruiting more cyclists, and when we have enough participants and a bigger sample, perhaps these results might change slightly. To wrap up, I would like to show you some practical applications. So according to Hopkins, that is an expertise in reliability, apart from other statistical measures. He suggests that if we multiply our typical error that was 7 watts for the whole group by 2, we have 92% of probability of asserting that a change less or more than 40 watts would be real and not just due to chance. Okay, so in other words, if someone does a time trial repeatedly and the performance is better by 14%, 14 watts or more, it seems that this was a true change in performance and not just only the normal variability, the typical variability of the test. Another way of looking at these results is by the coefficient of variation. This is more robust when we are taking the difference in performance when cycles are really different from our sample. In our study, the mean result of the time trial was around 300 watts, a bit less than this. So in case you are working with athletes that can perform more than 300 watts or less, you should use the coefficient of variation. And in our sample, it was 2.5%. So this means that, let's say, in 2 examples, your cyclists changed their performance by 1.5% or by 4%. If you add the difference observed or subtract the coefficient of variation, you have the true uncertainty you have for this result. And as you can appreciate, here the certainty that the difference was a real difference is much higher than in this case that equals 0. So here we are not really sure that the performance was real, whereas here we can be pretty confident that 4% was a real change and not just random variability. So I hope it has helped you to understand why it's important to have the reliability values of a measure. And I'd like you to thank you to listen to me.